Okay, so let's start with the super quick revision of the time of supply chapter. Everyone with me? Section number 12 and section number 13 mainly of the CGST Act. And for CA finals, we have also got section number 14, that is change in rate of tax. Yes, can we start with it? Okay, now first of all, whichever section numbers that I mentioned, section number 12, section number 13, section number 14, all these sections are pertaining to the CGST Act. Here, now, what do you mean by time of supply? We have already seen that, okay, whenever a particular supply happens, okay, we have first understood that when a supply happens, okay, once the supply is done, after that, we need to understand when is GST payable on that particular supply. Okay, when is the time that we have to actually pay the tax on that supply, and questions to all these answers are given in the chapter called as time of supply. So they are telling that in respect of every transaction, be it a supply of goods or be it supply of services, be it a forward charge transaction, be it a reverse charge transaction, in any of the cases, all the cases have been covered in section number 12 and 13, and in that case we will come to know when is the GST payable on such supplies. Okay, time of supply is different for goods, it is different for services, it is different for forward charge, it is different for reverse charge. Okay, so by using the provisions of these sections, we will determine what is the time of supply. If we get a particular date, okay, if we get a particular date as the time of supply, that is the day when the GST liability arises. Okay, means now on this particular day the GST becomes payable. Okay, and whatever is the due date. Okay, now let's say if the time of supply falls in the month of April, so whatever is the due date for payment of tax for the month of April, let's say May. Okay, time of supply is in April. Let's say due date for payment of GST of April falls in May. Then in that case, we have to actually pay the tax in the month of May. That is as per the due date. Okay, but time of supply, with the help of time of supply, we will just come to know when does our liability to pay the tax arise. Are you clear with this? Okay, so all these things are given here in the introduction, which is given in the book already. Okay, now after that, let's go to the one more thing. They have also given us the reference. Okay, they have also given us the reference. Now, just like you have section number 12 and 13 in your CGST Act, corresponding provisions for interstate supply of goods and services are covered under section number 20, as you can see, section number 20 of the IGST Act. I hope I am very clear till here, everyone. Okay, and that was your introduction part. Now you have got a few definitions given in your book. We will consider the definitions as and when required. Now starting with section number 12. Okay, one of the most important sections here, section number 12 and 13, is these two sections are the two important sections. Section number 12 talks about time of supply in case of goods. Right? Section number 13 is going to talk about time of supply of services. Now, whenever we are doing section number 12 of the CGST Act, we have to do it along with section number 31 of the CGST Act, which talks about the tax invoices and the time period within which we are required to issue the tax invoice to the recipient. Okay, we means I am talking about the supplier. Supplier is going to issue the tax invoice. So, what is the time period? What is the last day of issuing the tax invoice, etc.? And more information about invoices, more provisions about invoices are given under section number 31. Okay, so now here in section number 12, as you already know, it is going to talk about time of supply of goods. Okay, in this we are going to consider 5 cases, as you can see here. Can you see these 5 cases coming up, everyone? Yes. Now first one, supply of goods under forward charge. So second one, you can tell me, it will be time of supply of goods under reverse charge. Next one, supply of vouchers, example, Sodexo coupons, etc. Fourth one is your residual cases. That is, if you are not able to find out the time of supply in all the above cases, then we have to go as per the residuary cases. And last one is whenever to the value of the goods. Okay, whenever to the value of goods there is some addition on account of interest, penalty, late fees, etc. Then in that case, what will be the time of supply for that? These are the 5 cases that we are going to consider. Okay, till now we have just seen the heading. We have not seen the provisions. Now let's start one by one. Okay, first of all, in case of forward charge, okay, section number 12 subsection 2, what will happen in case of forward charge, how the time of supply will be calculated. Let's try to understand that. Okay, now in case of whenever normally a supplier sells any goods or supplies any goods to the recipient, can we say goods will be given by the supplier and the recipient is required to make the payment? So they are telling that time of supply will be earlier of 2 dates. Okay, one is the date of invoice, that is being given by the supplier, or if your invoice was issued late, then in that case the last date when the invoice should have been issued. Okay, if the invoice was issued on time, then the date of invoice. If the invoice was issued late, then the last day when the invoice should have been issued. Ma'am, what is the last date when the invoice should have been issued? We'll do that in section number 31. Okay, so this date of invoice or the date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. So earlier of these two dates, can you see this? Earlier of the following two dates, the time of supply will be there. Okay, now most importantly, let us now first understand. Okay, let us first understand that what is the last date of issuing the invoice. Okay, then we'll come to this notification again. I'll take you to that section number 31. Yes, can you see this? Time limit for issuance of invoice. Time limit for issuance of invoice for supply of goods under section number 31. What is given here? Okay, when normally when the supply involves movement of goods, means the goods are going to come from me to you, then in that case, on or before the removal of goods from my end, on or before the removal of goods, on or before that particular day, the invoice should have been issued. Okay, now let's say any other case where the supply does not involve movement of goods. Okay, let's say I am there at, we have taken an example in the full batch also, that let's say I had given you an AC on rent. Okay, I had given you an AC on rent that is now already installed in your premises. I visit your premises, I tell you, okay fine, I am selling it to you. Okay, so can we say there is no movement of goods involved, although the goods have been sold now, but there is no movement of goods involved. So in that case, invoice needs to be issued on or before the time of delivery. Okay, on or before the time of delivery of goods, or before making the goods available to the recipient as the owner. Now can I say the goods will be available to the recipient as an owner. So on or before that particular day, the time of the invoice needs to be issued. Okay, then in case of continuous supply of goods, ma'am, what do you mean by continuous supply of goods? In continuous supply of goods, there is a contract or there is an agreement between the supplier and the recipient that I am going to continuously supply the goods under a particular contract on recurring basis, for which you are going to give me periodical payments. I am going to give you periodical supply, you are going to give me periodical payments. Are you clear with this? Yes. So in case of continuous supply of goods, can we say every month or every quarterly there will be such supply? So what will be the time of supply in that case? Generally what happens in this case, whenever I am supplying you periodically, okay, whenever I am supplying you some goods periodically, then in that case, I am going to issue you a periodical statement, okay, that this many value of goods have been supplied or this much quantity of goods have been supplied. Okay, so on or before the time of issuance of the periodical statement, I have to give you the invoice, or if I am not giving you the periodical statement, but you will be making the periodical payment, so before receipt, on or before the receipt of that periodical payment. Are you clear with this? So whatever information is available with you, on the basis of that, whichever is earlier, the invoice must be issued. Okay, and then the last one, you must have heard about this right from your CA foundation or CPT, whatever. In case of goods sent on approval, okay, goods sent on approval for sale or return basis, I give you my goods, I tell you, see the goods, try the goods, and then you decide whether you want to accept the goods or you want to return it. Okay, so in that case, there can be only two possibilities. Either you will accept the goods or you will reject the goods. Okay, if there is rejection, then there is no supply at all. But if you have accepted the goods, okay, then in that case, the date when you have accepted the goods. But if you have failed to reply to me within a time period of 6 months, then at the end of 6 months. So basically, as per this time of supply, you have got a time period of maximum 6 months to tell me yes or no. Okay, if you do not tell me anything for a period of 6 months, I will deem it to be a yes, and at the end of 6 months, I am required to issue you the invoice. Or if, let's say, you are very punctual, you are very systematic, and you give me the approval, let's say in the next 15 days itself, then on the date of supply, that is on the date of that particular approval given by you on that particular day, maximum by that particular day, I am required to issue you the invoice. Are you clear with this? So ma'am, why did we study the section number 31? By studying the section number 31, we basically came to know what is the last date of issuing the invoice. Okay, if the invoice is issued before time, then in that case, the date of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. If the invoice is not issued on time, then the last day when the invoice should have been issued or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. This is how we are going to calculate the time of supply. Are you clear with this? Okay, then after that we had studied, we had discussed about a notification, that is notification number 66/2017, which was talking about advance payment. Okay, let's say we have entered into a contract that I'm going to sell you the goods. Okay, I'm going to sell you the goods under forward charge. Normal means I'm going to sell you the goods, I'm going to collect the tax from you, and I'm going to pay it to the government. But in this particular case, if I've received any advance money from you, okay, this was a very good benefit given. If I've received any advance money from you, then in that case, in case of goods, and that too in case of forward charge only, okay, then in that case you need not pay the tax now. Okay, so you need not pay the tax on what? On advance payment received on supply of goods under forward charge. No need to pay the tax now. You can pay the tax later whenever the supply happens. Okay, this is, again I'm repeating, this is applicable only for goods, and that too under forward charge. Okay, next thing that we are going to see is goods under reverse charge. There you have to pay the tax even on the advance payment receipt. Okay, so here in this case, what is happening in this notification number 66/2017? First you are receiving the advance money, then supply is going to happen, then you will receive the balance money. So you need not pay the tax at the time of advance money. At the time of supply, okay, at the time of supply you are required to pay the tax. So can we say practically and theoretically both receipt of payment kind of becomes irrelevant here? Yes, supply becomes more relevant. Are you clear with this? Okay, so again I'm repeating, time of supply in this case is equal to the date of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Ma'am, what do you mean by receipt of payment? Okay, receipt of payment, think from the point of view of supplier. Okay, receipt of payment will be the date when the receipt is recorded in the books of accounts of the supplier. Okay, when I am recording that, passing that entry in my books of accounts, or the date when the amount gets credited in my bank account, whichever is earlier. Okay, out of these two events, either when I am recording that particular entry in my books of accounts, or when my bank is crediting that amount to my bank account, whichever is earlier. Okay, think from the supplier point of view here. Then after that, okay, after that, the next thing, examples are already given in your book. You can simply refer it. Okay, we have considered everything in our main batch also. Next one is excess payment up to ₹1,000. Okay, normally if I have supplied you goods, okay, let's say I have supplied you goods worth ₹5,000. Okay, and then after that you have given me the money. Okay, the money that is given by you is, let's say, ₹5,500. I have supplied you the goods only of 5,000. You have paid me the money of 5,500. Can I say that I have received some excess amount of ₹500 here? Yes. So in that case, for that 500, okay, I am not talking about the first 5,000. For that, time of supply will be normal, date of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. But for that next 500 excess, can I say I am going to adjust it against the future bill? If I am going to adjust this 500 against the next bill, then in that case the law has given me the option to take either the date of receipt of this 500 as time of supply, or the date of supply, that is the next invoice, as the time of supply. Okay, so they are giving you the benefit that they are giving you that this 500 excess that you have received, no need to pay the tax on it now, you can pay it later. Are you clear with this? Anyway, now this 500 will be considered as an advance money on goods, and because of notification number 66/2017, you will be paying the tax at the time of supply only. Okay, so this is kind of irrelevant. Then after that, let's go to the next subsection. Everyone with me. We did section 12 subsection 2. Now going on to section 12 subsection 3. What is 12 subsection 3 talking about? It talks about supply of goods under reverse charge. That is, I am supplying the goods to the recipient. I am not going to collect any tax from the recipient. Recipient will pay it to the government from his pocket. Okay, then in that case, what is going to be the time of supply? Time of supply will be earlier of 3 dates. Okay, earlier of which 3 dates? First one, the date on which now think from the recipient point of view, reverse charge now. Think from recipient point of view. Okay, the date on which the goods are received. Okay, received by the recipient, or the date when the payment is recorded in the books of the recipient, or the date when the payment is debited from the books of the recipient. Okay, we had done totally ulta in case of 12-2 because that was from the supplier point of view. Now this is from the recipient point of view. Are you clear with this? So two things done. One is the date of receipt of goods. Next thing is the date of making the payment. Ma'am, what do you mean by date of making the payment? The date when the entry is passed in the books of the recipient, or the date when the amount is debited from his bank account, whichever is earlier. Or third one is totally different, or the date following 30 days. Date following 30 days is nothing but 31st day. 31st day from the date of invoice. Okay, 31st day from the date of issue of invoice. Who will issue the invoice to whom? Invoice will be issued by the supplier to the recipient. From that particular day, we have to take a time period of 31 day. That 31st day, max to max, that date will be considered as the time of supply. Are you able to understand this, everyone? Yes. Should I repeat it again? Okay, everyone here. Okay, don't look it in the book. Try to recollect, try to remember. In case of time of supply, in case of goods, in case of reverse charge. Okay, the thing from the recipient point of view, the date that person is receiving the goods. Okay, or the date of making the payment, or 31st day from the issue of invoice. Okay, out of these three dates, whichever is earlier, this will become the time of supply in the case of goods reverse charge. Okay, let's say if there is a possibility, we are going to receive the goods late. Okay, we are going to make the payment late, but the invoice have been issued now itself. So government says no problem. If the invoice is issued now, then on the 31st day, on or before the 31st day, the time of supply is going to apply. Government is not going to wait. Okay, it is not going to wait when the recipient will receive the goods, when the recipient will make the payment. No, if the invoice have been issued, done. Time of supply will be 31st day from the date of issue of invoice. Are you able to understand this? Okay, now let's say if we are not having these information available with us, okay, then in such case the time of supply will be the date of entry. Okay, date of entry of goods in the books of accounts of the recipient. The day the recipient has recorded it in the books of accounts, that day will be considered as the time of supply. Okay, another thing, what if you have received, I am asking you a question, try to give me the answer. What if you have received the advance money in case of goods reverse charge? Then in that case, time of supply will attract at the time of receipt of advance payment also, because we had already studied that benefit of not paying the GST on advance money that is available in case of goods, and that too in case of forward charge. Very clear with this? Okay. Then after that, let's go to the, now as you can see here in the textbook, all your examples are coming up. Let's go to the next one, section 12, subsection 4, that talks about the supply of vouchers which are exchangeable for time of supply of vouchers which are exchangeable for goods. Now let's say I have got a let's say there is a particular company. Okay, there is a particular company which is issuing the food vouchers, okay, to a company so that the company can give it to its employees. So can we say there is a supply of voucher by the supplier to that company? Yes, and the company would have paid a cost for it. Employees might be getting it for free, okay, but the company has incurred a cost for it. So can we say company becomes the recipient and supplier of the coupon becomes the supplier? So in that case, what will be the time of supply? Now let's say if it is a specific coupon, okay, let's say if it is a shirt coupon, okay, short coupon which have been given by the supplier to the employer, let's say, then can we say that coupon can be redeemed only against shirt? Okay, and in case of shirt, we know that, okay, let's say 18% GST is applicable. So the supply is known that this particular coupon will be redeemed for what? In such cases, when the supply is identifiable at the time of issue of voucher, then in that case, the time of supply will be the date of issue of voucher. Okay, so let's say if the coupon is not identifiable, okay, we have got a normal coupon from which I can purchase food items also, I can make the payment on Zomato also, I can use it in the grocery store, etc. also. So can we say we can purchase different items from it? Okay, so can we say the supply is not identifiable? It can be used for payment of for some goods which is taxable at 0% rate, or payment of any goods which is exempted also, or payment of any such goods which is taxable at the rate of 18% also. We never know. Okay, so in that case, what is going to happen? In that case, the time of supply is going to be the date of redemption of voucher. Whenever the voucher is going to be redeemed, at that time, the time of supply will get attracted. Are you clear with this? So to sum it up, okay, if identifiable, if it is clearly identifiable, at the time of issue of voucher, time of supply will be the date of issue. If it is not identifiable at the time of issue of voucher, then the time of supply is going to be the date of redemption of the voucher. Very clear with this? Okay, then after that, let's go to the next section. Okay, examples for you are given in the book. No need to worry. Going on to the next section, that is section number 12 subsection 5. Okay, 12 subsection 5 is the residual case. Okay, let's say if you are not able to identify, okay, if you are not able to identify, if you do not have sufficient information available with you, etc., then in that case, what will be the time of supply? If we had seen for reverse charge, in case of reverse charge, section 12 subsection 3, if it is not possible to identify the time of supply, then it will be the date when the goods have been recorded in the books of the recipient, or the entry has been passed in the books of the recipient. Okay, for any other cases, if it is not possible to determine the time of supply, then in that case, whatever is the due date for filing the periodical return, okay, whatever is the due date for filing the periodical return, that due date becomes the time of supply. Okay, let's say if I am talking about the first quarter of a financial year, that is April to June, if there is any supply that has happened during that particular period, and if we are not able to determine the time of supply, then whatever will be the due date of that quarter one, that becomes the time of supply for that particular transaction. Okay, and let's say in any other case, if you do not even know what is the due date, okay, when will we come to know that we do not know the due date? Okay, let's say we are not at all registered. Okay, we are not at all registered, whereas we were liable to get registered. Okay, if we were liable to get registered, then in such, but we had not got ourselves registered, then in that case, authority will tell us, boss, you have to pay the GST on it. Okay, had you been registered, you would have paid GST on it. So the date when the GST is paid on that particular transaction, that becomes the time of supply. Are you clear with this? So if you have the due date available with you, periodical returns due date, then that becomes the time of supply. If that is not available, that is in the case when you are not registered, whereas you are liable to get registered. So now you are required to pay the tax. So in that case, time of supply will be the date when the GST is actually paid on such transaction. Okay, and the last one, that is section number 12 subsection 6. What is section 12 subsection 6 talking about? Let's say if there is any increase in value of goods or services. Okay, I have supplied you the goods. Okay, and I have told you that you are required to make the payment within a time period of 1 month. That is a credit period given to you. And if you do not make the payment within a time period of 1 month, then I will be levying a late fee of, let's say, 5,000 rupees. Just an example. Okay, I'll be levying a late fee of rupees 5,000 on you. Okay, so can we say value of supply is one thing. Okay, and like along with that, we are also required, because the payment is not done within a time period of 1 month, can we say we will be also paying 5,000 rupees to the supplier in this case? Okay, so time of supply for that invoice for the goods will be calculated normally as per section 12.2 or 12.3 as the case may be. But can we say we came to know about this late fee of 5,000 later, that we are not able to make the payment? So time of supply for this 5,000 will be the date when we actually receive that interest or the late fee. Are you able to understand it? Let's say I have supplied you goods. Let's say I have supplied you goods worth rupees 10,000 rupees plus GST was added on it at the rate of 18%. So can I say I am required to receive 11,800 rupees from you? Okay, I told you that if you delay the payment beyond a period of 1 month, you are required to pay me 5,000 rupees extra. So you gave me 5,000 rupees extra also after a month or so. Okay, then in that case, for that 11,800 or for the 10,000 value of goods, time of supply will be calculated as per section number 12.2 or 12.3, forward charge or reverse charge. Okay, that is, or as per the other provisions of section number 12. But for that 5,000, can we say I'm going to receive the 5,000 also late? So for that 5,000, the time of supply will be the date when we actually receive that 5,000. Are you clear with this? One more example. Let's say supply happened in the month of April. Okay, I received the payment in the month of June. So time of supply for the goods will be calculated in the month of April itself. Okay, but for that 5,000, since I received the money in the month of June, then the time of supply will be June for that. Are you clear with this? Okay, so for this addition that can be in the form of interest, that can be in the form of penalty, that can be in the form of late fees, etc. For that, Time of supply will be the time when I actually receive this extra money. Are you clear with this? Yes, this was all about your section number 12. Whatever we have discussed, okay, whatever we have discussed, for that this particular chart is already there in your book. You can just refer it once again for a quick glance so that you will be super duper comfortable. Yes. Okay, so let's start ahead with section number 13, which talks about time of supply in case of services. We have already considered section number 12. Now let's go to section number 13. Same 5 things we are going to study here. First one, a supply of service under forward charge. Next one, supply of service under reverse charge. Third one is supply of vouchers that can be used to pay for services. Okay, earlier one was supply of vouchers to pay for goods. This one is for services. Then next one is residual cases, and the last one is addition to the value of supply of services by way of interest, late fee, penalty, etc. Okay, now let's start. Correspondingly, we have got here section number 13 subsection 2. Section 13 subsection 2, again we have to read along with section number 31 and along with these rules, that is rule number 47 of the CGST rules, where we are going to study about invoicing only. Okay, now let's recollect everyone here. Time of supply under services given under forward charge, that is, I am the supplier, you are the recipient. I am providing you some service, I am going to collect the money plus the tax from you, and I am going to pay the tax to the government. Normal forward charge. In such case we have got 2 dates. First one is your first, in case of service under forward charge, the only thing that you have to check first is whether the invoice was issued on time or whether the invoice was issued late. Okay, that due dates etc. we will study as per section number 31. But first identify whether the invoice was issued on time or not. If the invoice was issued on time, then no problem. Then in that case, the date of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, date of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. This is if the invoice was issued on time. Suppose if the invoice was not issued on time, then in that case, in case of goods, we had taken the last day when the invoice should have been issued. Here, we are not supposed to take the last day when the invoice should have been issued. Here, if the invoice is not issued on time, then the date of provision of service. Date of provision of service is nothing but date of completion of service or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Are you clear with this? So again I am repeating, invoice on time. Invoice on time रहेगा तो क्या होगा? Invoice on time रहेगा तो date of invoice या receipt of payment whichever is earlier. Invoice अगर late हो गया तो क्या होने वाला है? तो date of provision of service, that is date of completion of service or receipt of payment whichever is earlier. Okay, now normally what do you mean by receipt of payment? We have already done in the last section. What do you mean by receipt of payment? Receipt of payment is the date when the entry has been made. Okay, we are talking from the supplier point of view. The date on which the entry has been made in the books of accounts or the amount has been credited in my bank account, whichever is earlier. Same definition is applicable here also. Okay. Acha, one more thing, one more statement or one more line that is being repeated, that was there in section number 12 also and that is there in section number 13 also. To the extent the payment covers the service. Okay, see here, everyone here on the board. Can you see these words? Can you see these words? Yes, here it is in the bracket. To the extent the invoice or payment covers the supply of services or supply of goods, etc. So what do you mean by that? Let's say we had entered, the same words were there in goods also. Okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say we had entered into an agreement for 100 kgs of a particular material. Okay, 100 kgs of a particular material. But as of now, I have supplied you only 80 kgs and you have also done me the payment only for 80 kgs. Then there will be 2 different type of supply. One will be for 80 kgs, another one will be for 20 kgs. So that only to that extent for whatever thing we have issued the invoice. Suppose if I have issued the invoice for 80 kgs, then time of supply will be calculated only for 80 kgs. Okay, same thing is applicable here also. Then after that, this was your section number, section 13 subsection 2. Okay, one more thing to be done here is, if, where is my pen? If the above two methods, that is invoice issued on time or invoice not issued on time, if that is not applicable, if it is not possible to find, then in that case, the time of supply will be the date. Think from the recipient point of view. Okay, the date on which the recipient records or shows the service in his books of accounts. Are you clear with this? Yes, that is only when you are not able to decide the time of supply as per the above provision. Okay, can we revise this with the help of a chart, everyone? Can we try? Yes. See this, everyone. Can you see this chart on your table? Time of supply of services under forward charge. See what are they telling us here? If the invoice is issued within the time, yes, then can we calculate the time of supply? Yes, then the time of supply will be the date of issue of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, but if the invoice is not issued on time, then the date of completion of service or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Are you able to understand? And if you are not able to determine it as per the above pointers, then in that case, the date of receipt of services, in the books of the recipient. Okay, when the recipient has recorded that yes, he has received the service, that date will be considered as the time of supply. Okay, now ma'am, you told that if invoice is issued on time, then date of invoice. If invoice is not issued on time, then the date of provision of service. Okay, means ma'am, first we will have to check that whether the invoice was issued on time or not. So that we'll have to compare with the due date. What is the due date of issuing the invoice? Yes. Okay, now listen, just try to understand this. Normally, this is normal service. A registered person is supplying some taxable services. Okay, we are talking about normal service that has been provided here. So in that case, the tax invoice needs to be issued within a time period of 30 days. Okay, either before the provision of the service, that is before the completion of service, or within 30 days from the date of supply of service. So max to max, we have to issue the invoice within a time period of 30 days from the date of supply of service. On or before this period, the invoice needs to be issued. And in case of insurance company, banking company, if they are providing any particular service, banking company, insurance company, financial institutions, including NBFCs, whenever they are providing any service, they can issue the invoice instead of 30 days, they can issue the invoice within a time period of 45 days from the supply of service. Okay, so here the government is giving us, the GST authorities are giving us a time period of 30 days to issue the invoice. Very clear with this? Yes. Okay, then after that, this is just a proviso. Okay, this is just a proviso, second proviso to rule number 47. See what are they telling us here? In case of where the supplier is the same insurance company, banking company, financial institutions, including NBFC, telecom companies, extra person, okay, telecom companies, or only notified supplier, the one who has been notified, if they are making taxable supplies, okay, if they are making taxable supplies between distinct persons, remember, between distinct persons as specified in section number 25. This is only applicable to these specific companies and only if the supply is between distinct persons. Then in that case, what are they telling us here? This is a little different. Invoice may be issued before or at the time of recording the supply in the books of accounts, or before the expiry of the quarter, before the end of the quarter in which the supply was made. Okay, so two options are available. Okay, ideally it is whichever is earlier. So whenever you are recording such supply in the books, that you have given such supply to your distinct person, that is the time of supply. Okay, or if the supply is done during a particular quarter, normal. Okay, in case of GST also, your quarter is, if I talk from calendar year point of view, Jan to March, April, May, June, April to June, July to September, and so on. So before the expiry of that particular quarter in which you have supplied the service, that will become your time of supply. Very clear with this? And then next one is a little important from exam point of view also. In case of continuous supply of services, do you recollect we had done about continuous supply of goods also? In case of continuous supply of goods, invoice should be issued at the time of issuance of the, on or before the issuance of the periodical statement or receipt of periodical payment. Okay, so what is going to happen in case of continuous supply of services? In case of continuous supply of services, I have entered into a contract with you where I am going to provide you services on recurring basis. Okay, on a recurring basis for a period of more than 3 months. Okay, where I'm going to provide, means the time of service that I'm going to provide you, that is going to be more than 3 months with periodic payments. Okay, that is, I'm going to provide you some service, then you will do me the payment. I will provide you the service, you will do me the payment, and so on. Are you clear with this? Okay, now in case of continuous supply of service, what is the time period for issuing the invoice? The invoice should be issued on or before the due date. Okay, it should be issued on or before the due date of payment. Example, I have availed the services of Vodafone postpaid. Okay, then can we say there will be a particular due date that is fixed by Vodafone for payment of mobile bill? Then in that case, whatever is the due date, on or before that day, at least I should receive the invoice, right? Acha, what if the due date is not known? Okay, what if the due date is not known? Then in that case, whenever I am making the payment, okay, whenever the recipient is making the payment to the supplier on or before that date, the invoice should be issued by the supplier. Okay, and let's take the example of construction. You must have seen generally what happens in case of construction services. They say that whenever this much percentage work is completed, this much payment is to be done. Example, 20% work completed, 20% payment is to be done. That is a continuous supply of service. So whenever that particular milestone event is completed, okay, whenever that milestone event is completed which is linked to payment, on or before that day, the invoice should be issued. So as soon as that particular event gets completed, can we say we will issue the invoice to the recipient, and the recipient is going to make us the payment. Very clear with this? Yes. And the last one, in case of cessation of supply of services before completion of the service. Okay, let's say we have entered into a contract for giving you any particular service, but before that itself, okay, before the entire thing, there was a stoppage in between. Okay, बीच में ही service रुक गया है, cessation हो गया, तो जितना भी whatever proportion of supply has been completed, that much proportion of invoice for that much work done, that much invoice should be issued on or before at the time when the supply stops. Very clear with this? Let's say today the supply has stopped. Okay, then in such a case, until today 80% work has been completed or 80% service has been supplied. So for 80% invoice should be issued today. Very clear with this? Okay, in this entire this thing, due date for issuing the invoice, this 30 days is very, very crucial, and continuous supply of service is the second thing which is very, very important. Are you clear with this? Yes. Can we revise it once, everyone? Can we revise the time period within which we should be issuing the invoices? Okay, without, look at me, don't look at the board. Okay. Everyone here, normal, a supplier providing services. So the invoice should be issued on or before the completion of the service, on or before the provision of the service, or within a time period of 30 days from the date of supply of service. But in case of banking company, insurance company, banking company, including NBFC, instead of 30 days, it is going to be 45 days. Okay, let's say the supplier is banking, insurance, telecom, financial institutions, or any notified supplier. If they are doing any supply between distinct persons, then in that case, the date of recording the supply in the books or before the expiry of the quarter in which the supply was made. Then in case of continuous supply of service, when the due date is known, then on or before the due date. If the due date is not known, on or before the date of receipt of payment. And the last one, when that particular event is linked to, that milestone event is linked to the payment. Okay, that is, if event is completed, then this much payment will be done. Then in that case, on or before that completion of the event. And suppose if the supply stops in between, okay, if the supply stops in between, then in that case, for whatever proportion of service has been rendered, for that we have to issue the invoice on the date the supply got stopped. Are you clear with this? Okay, from this we will come to know whether the invoice was issued on time or not. If the invoice was issued on time, date of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. If the invoice was issued late, then date of provision of service or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Are you clear with this? Yes, some examples are given so that, you know, whenever you are doing it for the first time, at that time the concept becomes very, very clear. Then same excess payment up to rupees 1000, just like we had done it in case of goods. Suppose if while paying the Vodafone postpaid bill, I made some extra payment up to rupees 1000 only. Then for that excess payment, I can take the time of supply. That excess payment will be adjusted in the next bill. Okay, so for that excess payment that I have done, the time of supply, I have the option to take either the date of payment or the date of next invoice as the time of supply. Are you clear with this? Yes. Okay. Then after that, yes, this was all about your first one, that is section 13 subsection 2. And what did we study in section 13 subsection 2? We studied what will be the time of supply, and if we are not able to determine the time of supply, then the date when the recipient shows the receipt of service in his books of accounts. Okay, then let's go to section number 13, subsection 3, that is supply of service under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, time of supply of service taxable under reverse charge mechanism. In that case, there are two dates. Out of these two, we'll take whichever is earlier, as you can see here, everyone on the board. Okay, one is the date of payment. Now, if it is reverse charge, we have to think from the recipient point of view. So, the date of making the payment, or 61st day, that is the day following 60 day, 61st day from the issue of invoice, or 61st day from the date of issue of invoice. Out of these two, we can take whichever is earlier. Okay, now what do you mean by date of payment? We are talking from recipient point of view. Recipient point of view, date of payment. The date when the recipient records the payment in his books of accounts, or the date when the amount is debited from his bank account, whichever is earlier. So, date of payment or 61st day from the issue of invoice, whichever is earlier. There can be a possibility, right, that the payment is yet to be done, but the invoice has been issued. So, government says we will not wait for the date of payment, we'll wait for 60 days. 61st day will become the time of supply, and you will be liable to pay the GST. Are you clear with this? Yes. Okay. Then next point is very, very important. That is an exception point. Can you see here? Yes, everyone, this exception point. Now, let's say if we have received any service, okay, if we have received any service from our associated enterprise definition, same as given in your transfer pricing chapter in your direct taxes. Okay, for your simplicity, let me just tell you, associated enterprises as in relation to the other enterprise is nothing but where one enterprise participates directly or indirectly. Okay, one enterprise participates directly or indirectly in the management of the other enterprise or in the capital of the other enterprise. Then these two enterprises will become associated enterprises. Okay, now let's say I am here in India, my associated enterprise is located outside India. I am receiving some service. Okay, I am receiving some service from an associated enterprises located outside India. Okay, I am the service recipient, that person is the service provider. Since the service provider is located in a non-taxable territory, can we say a reverse charge mechanism will be applicable? So, time of supply in this case will not be calculated as per the normal time of supply. Here they have specifically given you time of supply will be the date of payment for the service. Can we say we are going to make the payment? Date of payment for the service or date of entry of the service in the books of the recipient, whichever is earlier. Means, you know, what is the impact of this? What did we study about if the payment is made late? If the payment is made late, then the government says maximum I will wait is 61st day. Or we can say government is going to wait for 60 days and 61st day will be your time of supply. In case of associated enterprise, government says I am not going to wait. Okay, either the date when you are making the payment to your associated enterprise or the date when you are recording the receipt of service in your books of accounts, that will immediately become the time of supply. Are you clear with this? So this time of supply is applicable only when there is import of service from an associated enterprise. Again, you might get a doubt, ma'am, why are we studying this under reverse charge mechanism? Why? Because you are the service provider is located outside India. So you are the service recipient who is there in India is liable to pay the taxes under reverse charge mechanism. Very clear with this? Yes, if you have understood it till here, then it will become very, 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 very simple ahead. Chalo, can we try this? Everyone, can we try it from the chart? Okay, time of supply of services under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, normal reverse charge. The date of payment. This is from the point of view of the recipient. So, the date when the recipient has recorded the payment in his books of accounts, or the date when the amount has been debited from his bank account, whichever is earlier. So, this becomes your date of payment, or 61st day from the date of issue of invoice by the supplier, whichever is earlier. If it is not possible to find the time of supply as per those provisions, then in that case, from the point of view of recipient, whenever he has recorded the receipt of service in his books of accounts, and between associated enterprises, I am there in India, my associated enterprise is there outside India, I am importing some service from them, then in that case, the time of supply will be the date of payment or the date when I have recorded the service in the books of the recipient. Are you clear till here, everyone? Yes, and then we had seen this for supply of TDR, supply of FSI. and long-term lease. Okay, whenever let's say I'm the landowner, I'm giving the development rights to a particular promoter or to a builder that please construct something on this or construct a structure on this and give it to me, where I'm not transferring my land, I'm giving just the development rights. Okay, for that we have already seen the taxabilities in the previous chapter. In this case also we know that reverse charge mechanism is applicable. There is no liability there on the landowner, the liability will come on the promoter. But in this case, one thing that is very, very important is time of supply. Time of supply will not be at the time when I am transferring the development rights. It will be at the time of completion certificate or first occupation, whichever is earlier. So this is a benefit given to the promoter, that when, see, can I say I'm transferring the development rights and I'm going to get some flats or I'm going to get some monetary consideration in return. At that time there will be no time of supply. Time of supply will attract only when we have received the completion certificate or there is a first occupation in that particular structure, out of these two, whichever is earlier. Very clear with this? Yes, and this thing is written here in your book. Okay, and also you should be able to recollect the entire amount is not taxable. Okay, the entire consideration is not taxable. We have already discussed about this in the previous chapters. Yes. Chalo, then after that, section number 13(4), section number 13 subsection 4, section 13 subsection 5 and 13 subsection 6 is same as section 12(4), 12(5) and 12(6). Okay, the previous one that we had done. Section 13 subsection 4, that was talking about vouchers which are exchangeable for services. If the supply is identifiable, then the time of issue of invoice. If the supply is not identifiable, then the date of redemption of the voucher. Okay, residual cases where you are not able to find out the time of supply, then the due date of the periodical return. If that is also not known, that is any other case, and in that case the date when the GST has been paid. Okay, if I have supplied any service and in return I am telling you pay me the amount for the services plus pay me some interest, late fee, penalty for late payment, etc. So what will be the time of supply for that interest, penalty, etc.? Time of supply for that is going to be the date when that interest, penalty, late fee, etc. has been received. Are you clear till here? Done. समझ में आया इतना? Okay, final summary table. Can we do it once, everyone? Can we try and do it once? Yes. Now, normal time of supply of services under forward charge. Under forward charge, we have to check first of all whether the invoice was issued on time or not. Okay, if the invoice was issued within the time specified, then in that case, the date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, if the invoice was not issued within the specified time, if it was not issued within the specified time, then in that case, the date of provision of service. Okay, date of provision of service, completion of service or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, then in case of forward charge, if we are not able to determine the time of supply will be the date when the recipient records the receipt of service in his books of accounts. Okay, then after that, next one, time of supply of services under reverse charge, except for associated enterprises. In that case, the time of supply will be the date of payment from the point of view of recipient or 61st day from the date of issue of supplier's invoice or from the date of issue of tax invoice, out of these two, whichever is earlier. Right? And the next one, vouchers, you already know, if identifiable, date of issue of voucher. If not identifiable, then the date of redemption of voucher. That was same. Okay, then any other case, residual case. What happened in case of residual case? Then if the due date is known, then the due date of that periodical return. If that is also not known, then finally the date on which the tax has been paid. And the last one was interest, late fee, penalty that is received. What will happen in such cases? Time of supply will be the date when it has been actually received by the supplier. Very clear till here, everyone? Yes. And then in your main book itself, I have compared, okay, goods and services provisions have been compared. Example, 12.2 has been compared with 13.2, 12.3 will be compared with 13.3, etc. So this is again a revision thing only, not to be, like, it is not a new thing, it is just a revision of the previous one. I hope I am very, very clear till here, everyone. Yes. Okay, let's take up a small amendment which is there in your time of supply chapter. A very small amendment. Do you recollect in case of time of supply of goods? In this, we had discussed about advance payment. Yes, advance received in case of goods. So, whenever you receive the advance in respect of goods, at that time you are not required to pay the GST. GST will be paid later on, right? But in case of services, GST is payable even when you receive the advance money, right? That was the notification which we had discussed here. Now, in that notification, okay, in that notification, they have put an exclusion. What is that exclusion? Now you should be able to relate it. With effect from this date, said notification has been amended to exclude registered person making supply of specified actionable claim from the said exemption, so that in case of specified actionable claims, those 6 actionable claims, the tax can be paid at the time of receipt of payment for such supplies by the suppliers. Okay, now let's say now if someone is engaged in providing the supply of those specified actionable claims, betting, lottery, gambling, horse racing, then your casinos and online money gaming. Okay, if there is a registered person, and if that registered person, can we say that was coming under the purview of GST? Okay, and actionable claims was included in goods, right? So in such a case, if that person receives any advance money, okay, then GST will be payable to the government at the time of receipt of advance money. Okay, normally what did we study? Normally we studied that if you receive any advance money for supply of goods at a later date, then at the time of receipt of advance, there is no GST as of now payable to the government. You can pay it later when you do the supply. Okay, but if you are a supplier of those actionable claims, and if you have received any advance money, then your time of supply does not get postponed. Okay, as soon as you receive the advance money, you are required to pay the tax to the government. Are you clear with this? So that those people, those specified actionable claim suppliers, they are not given the exemption, and for them the time of supply will be applicable. Okay, at the time of receipt of advance payment. Are you clear with this? Yes, that was a small amendment which they have put here in case of time of supply. Yes. Okay, done.